Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, John June. Welcome into the show. And we're back. I say we, because I got my guy, Greg Penniman, with me. G Money.
Yes,
Greg,
sir.
what is good, bro?
What's going on, yo? Back like we never left, as always. You know, we back. We hopefully be better. Another season, yo. We're getting right back to it. You know, start just picking up where we left off, pretty much.
Definitely picking up where we left off. I mean, it's been a while since we've been on these airwaves, but we're back. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, just make sure you subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe over there too. Hit that notification bell so you can, keep up when we get the new episodes and when they're coming out. Also new this year, we are a live show going forward now. So that's right. You can watch us live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. And so far that's it right now. But again, still working other ways to reach all you guys out there, continuing to try to interact with our listeners as much as possible this year. But if you're new to the show, welcome in. It's been a while for us, so we appreciate you. If you have been a loyal listener, a supporter of the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, obviously we appreciate you as well. Just to remind folks of what we're here, like what we're about here. Just two brothers here to talk fantasy football, have some fun doing it. So and we strive to get you all those chips, right? Those trophies, those fantasy championships. That's what we strive for, and we take it really personal. Greg and I both play in multiple leagues. We have our league of record on the show, which is the League of Extraordinary People, which we had our draft just about 2 weeks ago. So again, like we are in it with you guys. We'll go through the ups and the downs. Hopefully there's more ups than downs, but we talk about every single game, the totals, the winners, the spread, especially with betting being more prevalent, especially in the New York area. So, we definitely touch everything from that aspect. We also, we're going to talk about starts of the week, head-to-head DFS contests like Get Money. We're talking from a typical 12-team, one quarterback PPR league perspective. We do play different formats though, so we'll discuss other different things. If you have questions, just definitely hit us up in the chat. So again, much appreciate you, and definitely look at that from
Yes,
the
sir.
missus. Glad to see us back. Absolutely. She's telling me tilt my camera a little bit, so
Gotta get that face shot, gotta show out the sexiness,
Hey, a little something. We've been a YouTube show for about a year now, so people actually know what we look like, not just what we sound like, things of that nature. So, today we are jumping into our positional breakdowns where we're breaking down the quarterback position. On Wednesday, we will break down our running backs, and Thursday we're going to break down the pass catchers, so the wide receivers, tight end. And we may or may not have a show on Monday, but after that, we're going to our regular season schedule where we go Thursday night breakdown, game one preview, game previews part 1 and game previews part 2. So, and then our recaps following the week after. So, but today is about the quarterback position. Again, discussing our top 3 quarterbacks. We reveal our top 12 quarterbacks, our busts, our sleepers, our breakouts, our my guys, and we will play some ADP game because we always have to play some ADP game around this time. So before we jump into that, there is some news. The biggest news of last night was that Washington Commanders running back Brian Robinson was shot multiple times in an attempted robbery. The injuries are considered to be non-life threatening. Obviously, this is bigger than football. Prayers go up to Brian Robinson and his family. He's recovering well. Surgery went well. So, he's expected to make a full recovery. But this is a fantasy football podcast, so obviously there's got to be some reaction to that. He was being featured as the lead running back in the Washington offense. Antonio Gibson, his role should probably be a little bit larger here when you consider that Robinson has not been ruled out for the 2022 season, but he should miss some time with injuries to his glute and his lower leg. Prior to this, I had Robinson as RB38, Gibson as RB46. I've since adjusted my rankings where Gibson's more in the RB30 range for me. Greg, where do you have Gibson going, given the situation?
Yeah, definitely a bump for him in the rankings for sure. Last year he definitely had a lot of opportunity to take over that league dog role. He was a breakout candidate from the year one that he had, but he kind of disappointed a little bit just far as the touches and just the people behind him getting those touches, especially in the PPR, the receptions. Really, you want to see that from Antonio Gibson. He's going to get those 10 to 15 carries each game, but the receptions is where kind of Antonio Gibson could have some potential. So maybe if they use him in the passing game a little more, that could kind of bring his upside up a little higher. But I'm still seeing him as a mid-tier, low end RB2 at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's definitely in the low end running back 2 range for me as well. Bianca's asking how long is he predicted out for? We don't know. We don't have an answer to that question right now. They just said he's not expected to miss the season and could make a comeback. Just not sure when at this point. There is, this is cut down day. Teams have to get down to 53 players by Tuesday, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So with all that being said, there's going to be a lot of transactions that happen over the course of over the course of these next 2 days. We've already seen some happen today. Laviska Shenault get traded to the Carolina Panthers from the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you've been listening to the show, you'll know that I've been a huge Viska fan since he was drafted. So, this is hopefully maybe good for his dynasty stock. We'll see. Maybe. We'll see. Robbie Anderson's contract, is one that could be up soon. So, Viska could slide in. I'm going to stop that. I'm just going to
just put him in the backfield, with CMC,
Right when CMC goes down, if CMC goes down, I don't want to put that out there.
Facts.
You can have Viska in there as the, not so talented CMC, backup. And then, so I don't want to jump into too much of these transactions because I don't want to react to, a lot of things today because there's going to be a lot more that happens tomorrow and we could react to that on Wednesday when we go live here. But let's get into the quarterback breakdown, man. Let's talk about these quarterbacks. Our positional breakdowns is always a fun episode. So, like I said, we're going to go through discuss our top 3s, reveal our top 12s, talk about our breakouts, our busts, our sleepers, our my guys, not in that order, but we'll discuss them. Let's just recap the top 12 in total fantasy points from 2021 real quick. So we will refresh our memories of the season that was. QB1 was Josh Allen, 2 Justin Herbert, 3 Tom Brady, 4 Patrick Mahomes, 5 Aaron Rodgers, 6 Matthew Stafford, 7 Dak Prescott, 8 Joe Burrow, 9 Jalen Hurts, 10 Kyler Murray, 11 Kirk Cousins, and 12 Ryan Tannehill. Let's talk about the QB1s. And Greg, who is your quarterback 1 heading into 2022?
This was definitely a real tough one. Definitely going back and forth all the way up to last night, but I got to go with Lamar Jackson, going with him, QB1 of the year for me, going into this season. Just, a little banged up last year. This is set up for a great redemption year. We had the conversation that he's on a contract year. They were able to get a deal done going into the season. So he's all football right now. He's all focused. He wants to prove to the world, as I believe he's the most disrespected player in the league. People still don't believe he's, one of the top QBs in the league as far as his skill set. He can do both his legs and his arm. You know he's going to get over 1,200 yards. I mean, over 1,000 yards rushing easy. He can get to close to that number at 1,200 yards rushing. That automatically sets him up as a great floor for fantasy. And the numbers are going to come in the air. He's always going to get better with his arm and his accuracy. Doesn't matter who his targets are. Devin Duvernay, Rashad Bateman, J.K. Dobbins. He lost Hollywood Brown, but it doesn't matter. I believe Lamar Jackson is just gonna. This is a prove year for him. He's gonna continue to prove himself. I mean, not to himself because he knows he's one of the great ones, but to all these other haters out here that yeah, he's just gonna keep getting it done. Lamar Jackson, let's go.
Yeah, man. We love Lamar on this show. Definitely love. Don't hate you for having Lamar as the quarterback one. My quarterback one is Josh Allen. I mean, how far we've come here. My relationship with Josh Allen, Greg. I remember we were in Dallas. I laughed out loud when the Bills drafted him 7th overall. I laughed because I never thought Josh Allen would be good. Not even this good, just good, right? Like I didn't think that would happen. He's arguably one of the best quarterbacks in football, not just fantasy, but football. He's thrown for 73 touchdown passes over the last 2 years. He's got an average of nearly 4,500 passing yards. And oh, by the way, he'll probably run for 500 to 600 yards and another 6 or 7 touchdowns. He is the goal line back in Buffalo. The guy's a stud. Outside of 2 quarterback leagues, I won't have much of them though, because we like to wait on quarterback here. But he is definitely my quarterback one heading into the season. And then to piggyback off what you were saying about your quarterback one, my quarterback two, Lamar Jackson. I mean, pretty certain I had him in this spot last year. The man is too electric at the quarterback position. Now I know it feels like we're chasing that MVP season from 2019 every time we draft him, but that season is definitely tough to replicate, especially without a Marquise Hollywood Brown around. But like you were saying, he's got the targets. One name I didn't hear you say, maybe you did. Forgive me if you did. Mark Andrews. I mean,
Mark Andrews. Yeah, his number one target actually. That's
his number one target.
Yeah.
He was great last year. Yeah. He's also got second-year wide receiver who you did mention, Rashad Bateman, who can help pick up some of that slack there. Lamar had to put it all on himself last season with no running game. All their entire running backs were hurt. They get J.K. Dobbins this year, so it helps that passing game a little bit. Will help the play action game as well. And if you're like you were saying, if you're into those narratives of contract year, like I'm sure Lamar feels disrespected between that and not being ranked top 10 by like executives, interviewed by ESPN. So yeah, the 1,000 yards, you could pretty much lock that in. He would have done it for a third straight year had he not gotten injured. I can't quit him, and clearly, nor can you, Greg.
No.
But who's your quarterback too, Greg?
Well, we're just flip-flopping here. I mean, I was gonna take Josh Allen, but Josh Allen, my QB1, but I slide him in slightly below Lamar Jackson. He's gonna be my QB2. I think Josh Allen does get MVP this year, though. So just because the team success of Buffalo will be a little better, I think he'll be best player on one of the best teams in the league. Josh Allen gets it done, just with his legs. Talk about another guy who's gonna get not close to that 1,000-yard number, but he's increasing his rushing. Last season he had a season high in rushing yards, 763, career high in rushing yards with 763. So he just keeps getting better and better. He's the goal line back, as you were saying, with those rushing touchdowns, and just his accuracy. He's got his same targets: Dawson Knox, Stephon Diggs, and the offense plays to him very fantasy friendly for him. They throw a lot. They throw all the time. It feels like, especially when they're down in neutral game script. We use that term a lot throughout the year. They're going to be throwing it. So yeah, Josh Allen, a stud. He's going to continue to get it done.
Yeah, Josh Allen is definitely one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the league, like you were saying. Greg, who's your quarterback 3 though? Because I have a feeling he's probably one of the most dangerous players in the league as well.
Oh, you already know. This is always my guy every year for, forever and ever until he plays. Pat Mahomes, you already know. He's just a stud. This man's going to do what he has to do every year. No matter who the target is. No Tyreek Hill, doesn't matter. As long as Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid is there, he's going to be close. to over 4,500 yards. He's going to be throwing. He has the legs to get it done. And those 3rd and 15 plays, those third and long plays is where you see the explosiveness from him. It's got Travis Kelce. He's got a slew of running backs this year, so he's gonna have a lot to his array. And Mahomes is, he's gonna get the job done every year. I mean, these top three it just can be interchangeable. Any of the three that we said could possibly be a QB1, but Mahomes is just a special player, man. Special.
I mean, like we've always said plenty times on this show, he's probably the most talented, gifted player we've seen play this position. I mean, there's a lot of talented, gifted guys these days, for sure. Josh Allen, we talked about Lamar Jackson. Another guy I think is probably one of the most talented in the league is our guy who's on the wall, by the way, Justin Herbert. Herb, gotta love him, man. I mean, he is one of the best young quarterbacks in football. No quarterback in NFL history has more touchdown passes through the first 2 years of their career than the Herb with 69. No one has thrown for more yards than the Herb through the first 2 years. He's simply an alien playing quarterback in the NFL, and we're all just witnesses. That's really what it comes down to.
We really are, man. Really are, yo.
I mean, we talked about Herbert last year potentially having more pass volume. Had 672 pass attempts last year in his first season under head coach Brandon Staley and offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi. That was second behind Tom Brady. But we talked about last year with the increased passing volume that Herbert could see. We discussed this under Joe Lombardi, who came from New Orleans coaching Drew Brees there. So I love Herbert again this year. The volume should be there. He plays for an aggressive head coach who is not scared to go for it on 4th down. So you got to love that from a fantasy perspective. And Herbert has a bunch of great weapons. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Everyone's talking about 3rd-year receiver Josh Palmer, Austin Eckler out the backfield. So They even got Gerald Everett in there at tight end. It's a nice, high upside player there. So easy to project him for a top 3 finish. I don't have Patrick Mahomes here, obviously, because Herbert is here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's gonna be a very, very great. The best thing about Josh Allen, Herbert, and Justin Herbert, Josh Allen's got a better division, so that could play into him getting a little more shootouts. But that NFC West, Patrick Mahomes, Herbert, Russell Wilson, Carr, they're both, all 4 of them are gonna have great fantasy seasons, just playing off each other and being in a lot of shootouts. So it should help them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think that if you're going to consider the divisions that they play in, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is going to find himself in a lot more shootouts playing against the likes of Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, with Josh McDaniels there, and Justin Herbert. So Bianca's booing me for not having Patty in my top 3.
No Patty, though. This is probably, I mean, since he's come in the league, since he's broken out in that season, he's been in someone's top 3. I mean, that probably both of us top 3 for sure, 1 or 2.
For sure. I mean, he was my quarterback 1 last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will reveal where my top 12 quarterbacks are at right now.
I'm hoping he's 4, I'm hoping.
I got Jalen Hurts 4.
Oh!
Russell Wilson 5.
Oh!
Patrick Mahomes 6. Tom Brady 7. Kyler Murray 8. Joe Burrow 9. Dak Prescott 10. Trey Lance 11. Kirk Cousins is my quarterback 12. Sorry, Patty, you didn't make
the top 5.
You didn't make my top 5.
Even make the top 5. That's crazy. Talk about talk about how we do think Lamar Jackson is getting disrespected. Pat Mahomes is getting disrespected right now for sure. But it's all good though. It's all good. For me though, after Patrick Mahomes, I have Justin Herbert at number 4, Brady at number 5, Matt Stafford at number 6, Russell Wilson at 7, Kyler Murray at 8, Aaron Rodgers at 9, Joe Burrow at 10, Trey Lance at 11, and Kirk Cousins at 12.
You know what? I feel like both of us could be right. There's definitely a possibility. So I don't hate any of your top 12 quarterbacks at all. But Greg, I got to ask you a question. I mean, I'm probably going to lead into our quarterback bust discussion here. and maybe it creates a nice segue. But who that finished in the top 12 last year? Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill. Do you think falls out, has the greatest likelihood of falling out of the top 12?
Yeah, it definitely ties into my bust, but my answer is gonna have to be Dak Prescott. I mean, just with the fact that he lost a couple weapons in Amari Cooper, um, the fact that he, played into no Tyron Smith for the entire year, has definitely been very well logged. His stats and his splits with Tyron Smith and without Tyron Smith, it definitely changed the offense. You can arguably say Tyron Smith's the most important player on that franchise in the Dallas Cowboys, besides the quarterback next to Dak. So that's going to affect him. And talking about his ADP, his draft positioning right now, according to Fantasy Pros, he's going as a QB8 right now, above guys like Tom Brady, above guys like Matthew Stafford, above guys like Russell Wilson, who I have all three of them above Dak in my rankings. So if I'm drafting and I see Dak above those names, I'm going to turn and look the other way and get a guy like Tom Brady, who led the league in yards last year. I'm going to get a guy like Russell Wilson, who now he's going to be able to throw more. We know he's going to get more attempts, and that's just going to lead to success for him. Matthew Stafford, who was a top 6 fantasy quarterback last year. So guys like that is more like not me hating on Dak and what he can do, and that he is a Cowboy and I'm a Giants fan, but that there's a lot there's a lot to come into play if you're going to be in that top 8 for fantasy quarterbacks. And he's not he's a rusher, but we wouldn't consider him a heavy rusher, and he usually relies on a lot of pass attempts and a lot of yards and touchdowns. So CeeDee Lamb definitely going to help him out a lot. I mean, he's going to get Michael Gallup later in the year, but to start off, you need to jump out in the gate really, really hot. So it's Dak Prescott for me.
Yeah, I definitely hear where you're coming from with this one. I mean, the Tyron Smith news is absolutely huge, like you talked about with the splits, Dak Prescott with and without Tyron Smith. It's just a completely different quarterback at times, it seems. For me, just to answer the original question about which player I feel like has the most likelihood of falling out of the top 12, I'm just going to go for this low-hanging fruit here in Ryan Tannehill. He finishes the quarterback 12 in total fantasy points, loses A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
They're probably going to be in the bottom of the league in pass attempts, getting back to running the man known as Derrick Henry.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully they don't run him into the ground again, but basically running that man. But to answer the question who the bust is, and by the way, like we always say, when we're saying, and I heard Greg say this, he's not saying that he's picking Dak Prescott as a bust because he feels like he's gonna be terrible and that he's gonna be a bad pick, but it's more about the fact that this is a guy who, at his draft cost and what it costs to get him on your team, we may not agree with that cost, and we also may prefer other players that are maybe in a similar price range to that player. So that being said, it's a long-winded way because I got in some trouble. When we first did the show, there was some stud running back who I previously mentioned, who went on to be probably one of the best running backs in football today, who I said was a bust. And, I don't want to get that misconstrued as me saying that Derrick Henry's bad at football. I mean, not Derrick Henry, but, the player that I'm talking about as being a bust.
Right.
So that player here is Aaron Rodgers for me. It just really what it comes down to is what we had talked about before, the price range. I mean, according to 4for4.com's multi-site ADP, he's going off the board as the quarterback 11. And again, very well could finish in that range there. But I see him more as a top 15 option as opposed to a top 12 quarterback option. He obviously doesn't have Devontae Adams to throw the football to anymore. Also lost Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So his top 3 wide receivers right now, Allen Lazard, Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb. He's got some young guys in there, some rookies as well, and that can help. But I see a situation where they probably lean on their 2 stud running backs in Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, to probably generate some offense here. I think he will definitely be a playable option, a streamable option, and have some quarterback 1 weeks. But to draft him in the 7th round, just over guys like Kirk Cousins or Trey Lance, and you might laugh when I say Kirk Cousins and or Trey Lance, but when you really look at the situation and what those guys have, in their favor, it would lead me to draft them over an Aaron Rodgers here. So don't think he's terrible at football. I think he's still a Hall of Famer. Think he'll probably still throw for 30 touchdowns or so. It's just not going to be the type of year that we've seen, where he finished top 5 last year in quarterback fantasy points. Now that's done and over with. That's always the most anxiety-inducing part of the show there.
I know. Last time I chose Aaron Rodgers to be a bust, he got MVP, so I'm not touching that.
Yeah, see, so it happens, and we're wrong at times, but we're also right. We could also be right. So, Greg, who is your quarterback sleeper this year?
I think I chose him last year, but I'm gonna keep it going again, man. Famous Jameis, man. He was proving me right until he got hurt. Like he was doing what he had to do in the Saints organization. I just think that organization and that coaching staff, they're able to bring out his strengths and limit his mistakes, and that's really what it comes down to. Because if you limit his mistakes, those stats are gonna come. He did a pretty fine job last year before he tore up his knee. And I think, for his value, he's going pretty late in drafts, almost undrafted in some drafts as well. For a quarterback, I think he's going to be definitely have some top 10 QB1 weeks for sure. And then he's the point of, being a sleeper. You don't want a guy to try to, lose your week. You don't want a guy to fall out and get you one of those single digit games and stuff like that. So I think, he definitely isn't going to. The new Jameis, the Saints Jameis, is not going to be able to do that, limiting his mistakes, limiting his interceptions, and Jameis is going to be a fine quarterback. And having the likes of Michael Thomas back on the field, Alvin Kamara, who's being very slept on right now, which is crazy, definitely is going to be help him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Jameis Winston was balling last year, but you kind of slided him a little bit. You referred to, New Orleans Saints Jameis. I mean, don't forget
Saints Jameis.
30 for 30 Jameis was out there in championship week winning chicks.
It's legendary, yo.
It's legendary, okay? 30 for 30. Yo, when you are sitting there, you had Jameis Winston that year, and he threw a pick 6, you're like, all right, let's go. Because you know what's coming.
Coming back for a touchdown.
Coming back for a touchdown. It's instant offense, So it's like it's like we were talking about. We talk about neutral game script all the time. We talk about trailing in games and what that does. I mean, you trail, you throw the ball. Teams that trail throw the ball 65% of the time. So Jameis Winston out there throwing a pick 6, I'm cool with that. If you're gonna throw an interception, at least have it be a pick 6 because you go right back on the field.
Hey man, 14 touchdowns to 3 interceptions last year in those 7 games. Like he was doing pretty well for himself.
No, he definitely was. My quarterback sleeper this year. By the way, I wanted to pick Kirk Cousins again, but I just I can't do it because I can't people should not sleep on Kirk Cousins anymore. Right?
Not anymore, man. No.
If we're drafting Justin Jefferson where we're drafting him,
facts.
we should be okay with rostering Kirk Cousins at this point. So not even gonna entertain it. But my quarterback sleeper this year is actually Trevor Lawrence. And it's funny, I mean, going off the board as quarterback 18, not far at all from where I have him. I have him as the quarterback 19. But this is last year's number 1 overall pick that we're talking about. I understand how bad he was, but everything about that Jags team was bad last year with Urban Meyer being the head man in charge. Shoot, I almost picked him to be my breakout quarterback last year. This dude is the highest rated quarterback in my prospect model, which goes back to 2018. The highest before him was Lamar Jackson. I have faith in the ability of Trevor Lawrence. And the price right now is cheap compared to what you were paying last year. People didn't care. It was Jacksonville. He was the number 1 pick. He was highly sought after in fantasy drafts. He was regarded. I mean, I know I even had him in my top 12 of quarterbacks, I think, at one point. going into last year. I think ultimately settled at 15 for me. But he's a guy that was highly rated last year. And I think with the better situation, Doug Peterson being the head coach in Jacksonville, they paid a lot of money to get Christian Kirk in there. They've got Marvin Jones, so they've got Evan Ingram. So they try to surround him with some weapons there. I think it's going to be in a better offensive situation for him just in general. So I definitely like Trevor Lawrence as somebody who I'm comfortable streaming at times this year and potentially even rostering the whole season. And that's the beauty. We talk about, we have our streams of the week segment where we often will bring up quarterbacks or defenses or tight ends, those onesie positions that we say, hey, let's stream that position. Let's go to the waiver wire every week and find somebody that we can plug in and get respectable fantasy points. And I like to think more often than not, especially when it comes to the quarterback position, that we're pretty good at it, Greg. Not to toot our own horn, but the beauty of streaming a lot of times is that we eventually land on a guy who just becomes that guy. Justin Herbert was one of those guys for us. Jalen Hurts was one of those guys for us. Sure. We start out by streaming. It's like you're not just gonna marry the first person you go on a date with, right? You're just gonna you're gonna go on a few dates, and then you're gonna pick the one that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and that's what essentially what streaming quarterbacks is like.
Yeah,
so,
it is. Yeah.
So, Greg, let's move on to our breakouts. Who is your quarterback breakout this season?
Hey man, I mean, last couple, I always wanted the Giants to tank for Tua, and this is the time where I think he finally gets his breakout. He finally gets his time. Tua Tagovailoa. I think this is his one shot to kind of prove that he's a breakout. I mean, this is his last shot, I would say, because they give him all the weapons that he needs. Adding Tyreek Hill, which was a huge weapon. You saw that nice little bomb in the preseason.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at this comment here.
You saw that bomb in the preseason to Tyreek Hill, just to show the likes of a play that we should see a lot throughout the regular season. I know people always joking how Tyreek Hill saying he's the best quarterback he's ever played with, or most accurate, and how Tua can't get it down the field, how he's always underthrowing him. But I think Tua is going to be able to get it done with Tyreek Hill and additions with Mike Gesicki and players that are still there and the weapons around him. The Dolphins should be better as a team. Again, they'll be in more competitive games this year with a better division with the Bills, the Pats being there. So I think this is his year. Well, he's going to give you QB1 weeks for sure. I think he finishes in the top 15.
Yeah, I think that's fair for sure. I believe I have Tua as my quarterback 16 on the year. I like the weapons there in Miami with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Mike McDaniel being the offensive play caller over there. Tua is definitely somebody that was on the radar here for breakout quarterback, and somebody who's a popular pick, and someone that a lot of people picked last year to be a breakout at the quarterback position. So yeah, definitely like that one, Greg. My quarterback breakout, if you've been listening for a while, you pretty much just knew what this one was going to be. Greg's emphasizing, making hand motions that it's a layup, because feels like a layup. It does feel like a layup, but to be fair, if you know me, you knew that this was probably going to be my guy. This is kind of the archetype that I go for when I'm looking for these cheap breakout quarterbacks. And of course, it's Trey Lance.
Yes, sir.
If you've been listening to the show for a while since our inception, then you probably would have guessed I'd go down this route. 2019 was Lamar Jackson. 2021 was Jalen Hurts. And 2022 is Trey Lance. I mean, it's all about the Konami code here, that rushing upside for Trey Lance. In his first start last year, we saw Lance run the ball 16 times. So the beauty of it is he's going to be a part of this run game for Kyle Shanahan. Again, let me say that again. He's going to be part of this run game for Kyle Shanahan, right? So that's one of the best offensive play callers in football today.
Yes, sir.
One of the best play designers when it comes to running the football and marrying it with your play action pass game. Kyle Shanahan's absolutely masterful at what he does in the run game, what he's able to cook up for the 49ers, and what he's going to be able to cook up with Trey Lance and Deebo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell and Brandon Ayuk. And shoot, like, just look back to 2012 when RG3 won Offensive Rookie of the Year. His offensive coordinator at that time, Kyle Shanahan. That season, we saw RG3 throw for 3,200 passing yards, another 815 rushing yards. Trey Lance is more than capable of putting up these types of numbers. And again, you have to consider the weapons that he's throwing to. He's got 2 all-pro players in Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, in addition to Brandon Ayuk, who by all accounts is going to experience a breakout of his own. So Trey Lance, my quarterback 11 this year, as I previously mentioned, fully expect him to deliver on the quarterback 13 price tag.
Yeah, same. He's my QB 11 as well. And even better, he's got the highest paid backup quarterback behind him. So now he's got to play. Like, he's going to be, oh, word, I got to show out now. I got this guy who's probably making more money than me behind me now. So I got to go hard.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, man. I mean, Jimmy G, for those that don't know, the Niners have been trying to trade him since they've been trying to tell everybody who would listen that they were trying to trade Jimmy G since before Jimmy G stopped playing for the Niners. I think they were still playing in the playoffs,
during the
and
season.
They were talking about, we're going to try to trade Jimmy G, and Kyle Shanahan already came out, said Trey Lance is the starting quarterback, and the best trade partner, most available trade partner that could be willing to take Jimmy G plays in the same division as the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks, who could really use a starting quarterback there.
Yeah.
As they just finished up a competition with Drew Lock and Geno Smith. So now the 49ers are like, hey, Jimmy G, we can't find a trade partner. Here's some money to sit on the bench. So when they would have, I think, paid, it would have cost them $2 million in dead money had they released him. So they figured, hey, instead of spending $2 million to not have him, let's spend $6 million to have him sit on the bench.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's a good backup plan. Someone that knows the offense. You want your backup to be familiar and everything. So, if God forbid anything happens to Trey Lance, they can still make that playoff run. They were 1 game away from the Super Bowl last year, so they're definitely still looking to win.
Yeah, man, the Niners almost made it to the Super Bowl. That was crazy.
It's crazy.
Greg, who is your quarterback, my guy this year?
Well, because he's been, the most disrespected player, I gotta give him all the respect that he needs all throughout the year. Lamar Jackson, he's my QB1. He's going to be my guy all year. Big trust, just what he's done. First of all, he's my guy because he's won us a fantasy championship before in the past, and he's going to continue to be on one of those guys that I look up to as a player, as a person. He handles his business on and off the field. And he's gonna get it done. He's one of the swaggiest players in the league with Pat Mahomes. This amount of ankle breakers I'm ready to see. That's what I'm here for. Like, it's just so many victims he's had, and he's my guy going out to 2022.
Yeah, it's I love it that he's your guy, because then you have to root for him while he scores points for my League of Extraordinary People team. So,
hey, if the guy on the back behind you is going to be scoring points for me all season, man, on that Urban Outfitters. So
Urban Outfitters, I did like that team name a lot. I liked
it
a lot. I'm not gonna lie. My guy for this season is going to be Russell Wilson. Mr. Unlimited will no longer be limited by Pete Carroll and his run the football and play good defense mindset, despite having an all-world quarterback.
Crazy.
Wilson, who's averaged 29.97 pass attempts per game during his career. Again, put that in perspective. Mahomes is at 37.2. Tom Brady, 35.5. Justin Herbert, 39.6. Aaron Rodgers, 33.4. That's just some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Since entering the league in 2012, Russ ranks 51st among all quarterbacks in pass attempts per game. Of quarterbacks with at least 16 starts, he ranks 5th in fantasy points per pass attempt. He's wildly efficient, ranks 5th in touchdown rate, ranks 6th in yards per attempt during that same span. And he's, again, 51st in pass attempts per game. I mean,
True
Russell,
outlier.
I mean, Pete Carroll, what were you doing, man?
I don't
Now,
know, man.
again, he goes to a team that traded away a bunch of assets to get him. They should allow him rather to be the reason why they win football games. Not saying that wasn't the case in Seattle, but that will be the case when they go in on Tuesday and they get the game plan. It's going to be on the back of Russell Wilson on offense. That's what it's going to be.
Yep.
Head coach Nathaniel Hackett coming from Green Bay, where he spent time with Aaron Rodgers. So he understands playing to the ego of that veteran quarterback. Not going to be new to him. Hence why Russell Wilson is my guy. Bianca has Patty as her guy, I guess.
Hey,
As
man.
her, my guy.
Deep down, that's a guy for the league. He's the NFL's guy.
He's the face of the NFL.
He's
Yeah,
the face of the
much.
NFL. Yeah.
Unless you ask a Patriots fan, because apparently they all hate him. Unless there's a Patriots fan that could dispute that statement that I just made. That's a fact. So
I love the Russell Wilson pick for sure. Yeah, he's going to go off this year. He really is. No matter who his weapons are. And again, another quarterback in that NFC West, man, just lighting it up. Oh, AFC West, sorry. With these over-unders every week, over 50.
Yeah, except for the first week because they play Seattle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it'll be 45 to 5 or
something. Bianca also agrees. She says Russell Wilson. That's a good one. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I told you this back in, I don't know, June, May, when I was doing my projections and my rankings, Greg. Russell Wilson to lead the league in touchdown passes was a bet that I easily was able to put in because, again, we're talking about a guy that since he's been in the league, 5th in touchdown rate, the attempts are going to go up now. There's a possibility that we see Russell Wilson put up numbers that we've quite honestly never seen him put up before. So, all right, we have some time, so we can play some ADP game here, Greg. We love playing ADP game, one of our favorite games. And I've got 3 queued up for us.
Okay.
So I think we've got enough time for all 3. So let's jump right into it. First one is Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts going off the board as the quarterback 6, pick 505. Joe Burrow going off the board as the quarterback 7 at pick 510. Greg, I'm going to ask you at cost, who do you prefer?
Well, just going straight based off my rankings. Even if I didn't look at my rankings, I want Jalen Hurts. I have Jalen Hurts up there as one of my top 12, and as a guy who's gonna continue to do what he's got to do. I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts just for the floor of the rushing every time. I definitely like those safe players. Those players that are gonna fall into 20 to 25 points, even if they have a bad game. Joe Burrow, he's gonna light it up as well. But for the price, you want someone. If you're gonna draft a quarterback that late, you're gonna want someone that's definitely safe. Definitely AJ Brown. The addition of him is gonna help him a lot. Devontae Smith now getting easier matchups probably help him individually, but also help Jalen Hurts as well with their connection. And their running backs seem to be always banged up, so they're going to continue to throw the football at a high clip and keep it even as well, but also throw the football a little more. So I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I mean, I led off the top by saying Jalen Hurts is my quarterback for this year. Not saying I don't love Joe Burrow. I think he's great. I think he's fantastic. However, like you were talking about, Greg, we like that safety net of having those rushing yards available to us. But also, I think something that's forgotten is the upside that brings, right? Like when you get Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, we'll stick with Jalen Hurts, but when you get him in a high-scoring affair where it becomes like, okay, I'm going to run around, I'm going to make some plays. That leads to him throwing the football more. He's going to scramble more on some pass attempts, that means those rushing yards go up, potentially more passing touchdowns. So while Joe Burrow is great, there's gonna be some dips in the year because he's not going to throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns every week. But Jalen Hurts very well will run for 60, 70 yards every week. And so with that being said, I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts because that 40 rushing yards for Jalen Hurts, which he can very easily do 2 times over, is the equivalent of a passing touchdown for Joe Burrow. So I'm going to take those rushing yards there with Jalen Hurts. And yeah, so Greg, let's move on to the next set of quarterbacks that we're going to discuss here. Derek Carr versus Kirk Cousins. Carr is getting an upgrade all around, gets Devontae Adams as his new wide receiver 1, also gets genius Josh McDaniels to build an offense around him that has culminated in all of this has culminated in a quarterback 14 price tag at pick 906 in your typical 12-team leagues, according to 4for4.com's multi-site ADP. Or do we go with Kirk Cousins, who gets an offensive genius of his own in Kevin O'Connell, who was most recently the offensive coordinator with the Rams under Sean McVay? He's going off the board as the quarterback 15. So these guys are going back to back with a price tag of 911. So, Greg, which signal caller would you rather have in this given situation?
This is definitely a tough one, but I think I'm a lean to. This is a tough one. This is a real tough one. I'm gonna go with Kirk Cousins just because I think just a little more consistency from him. Even though you got Devontae Adams, definitely a huge addition. It's not like Kirk Cousins doesn't have the same array of weapons with Justin Jefferson, with Adam Thielen, who's there and red zone guy. He's going to be one of the top guys in the red zone getting touchdowns. So that helps Kirk Cousins for his touchdown number. And the yards are going to be there, even with Dalvin Cook as a dominant running back. They're going to still be lighting up, throwing the football. Minnesota, probably, they'll be an average team. I don't think they'll be one of the greats in the league. So they'll definitely be in games where they're playing from behind in negative game script. They'll be throwing a little more. Oakland was a playoff team last year. They have some expectations coming into the year. It does help them being in the AFC West. I definitely brought that up, but I'm going to lean to Kirk Cousins because of a little more consistency. Derek Carr, throughout the years, has still given you, some of those weeks where you're like, what happened? Like you lost weeks because of Derek Carr. Not saying Kirk Cousins has definitely lost people weeks as well, but I think it's a little less from Kirk.
I mean, the expectations I feel like are higher for Derek Carr at points in times because we're like, oh, Derek Carr, he's having a really good season. Like, let's play him. And then you make him your start of the week or something. I think that happened to you, Greg.
Every time, yeah. He still ended up in like top 5 in yards last year. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a tough one. Hence why I picked it, because potentially you might be in your draft and you might be trying to make this decision. But for me, it's Kirk Cousins. I'm with you, Greg. He is my quarterback 12. Derek Carr is around 17 for me. And really what it comes down to is Derek Carr and the Raiders, they already threw the ball at a decent rate. Kirk Cousins is coming from a situation where Mike Zimmer was his head coach. Mike Zimmer hangs out at the same, at the same country club as Pete Carroll, and they talk about how their defenses and their run games are going to win them their games this weekend. And so you bring in Kevin O'Connell, who is going to kind of flip this pass game rate, where there's their neutral game script pass rate on its head, where maybe they're running the football 40 times. And when I say neutral game script, we say neutral game script, all we're saying is at a point in the game where the score is where the team is trailing by less than 6 points, right? So it's a 1-score game 6 points or less. So it's a 1-score game. You have the ball. You're not really pressing. You're not down by multiple scores. It's more just like you're down. Let's move the football. Let's score some points. Let's run our offense. Versus if you're down 2 or 3 scores, you might have a greater sense of urgency. You might throw the football more. So we like to look at neutral game script pass rates because it's more it shows intent rather than what teams were forced to do. Because like I mentioned earlier on the show, if you're teams that are trailing, they throw the ball 65% of the time. So if you look at a team like Jacksonville or the Jets or the Giants that were trailing a lot last year, you're going to look and you're like, oh wow, they threw the football a lot, but that was because that was out of necessity. So we like to look at this neutral game script because it shows more intent. And Kevin O'Connell is going to come over and they're going to throw the football probably 55, almost 60% of the time in neutral games, neutral game situations in the first half. So I think that's going to be more passing volume for Kirk Cousins, who's done more with less when you look at what he's been able to do, finishing as a top 12 quarterback in total fantasy points last year, given the situation that he was in. So I will go with Kirk Cousins, although I do think Derek Carr probably sees a little bit more upside this year than we've probably seen from him in the past. Josh McDaniels, he made Kyle Orton look like a good quarterback, right? Like Kyle Orton throwing to Brandon Lloyd, like he comes in, trades away Jay Cutler, trades away Brandon Marshall, and is like, yeah, we're going to be just fine. And then, Kyle Orton and Brandon Lloyd are out there, throwing for almost 4,000 and getting over 1,000 receiving yards. Jabbar Gaffney was a good receiver in Josh McDaniels' system. So just imagine what's going to happen when you give him a Devontae Adams, you give him a Hunter Renfrow, you give him a Darren Waller. So I think that, there's definitely some upside here for Derek Carr. So don't want to sleep on him. Bianca's also saying that she would go with Kirk Cousins. So she's in agreement with us there.
I think it'll be like Derek Carr will end up having maybe more top 3 weeks, like big weeks, but like, consistent wise, Kirk Cousins will end up having more QB1 weeks just in general.
I agree with that. I could see that, see that happening. Totally agree with that there. We got one more. We got time for one more. This will be the last one before we close it for the evening here. Justin Fields versus Trevor Lawrence. Fields is going off the board, quarterback 17, the 8th pick in the 11th round. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback 18, as the 10th pick in the 11th round. Greg, where are you at with these two second-year players right here?
This is tough because they both, changed their coaches, so that helps both of them a lot. I definitely would have changed my answer if one of those coaches were still there. But I think I'm gonna go with Trevor Lawrence slightly more, just by a hair. It helps that Justin Fields is. I think like they both have ability with their legs, so I can't say that one has the edge there. Trevor Lawrence, in college had a lot to do with his legs. Justin Fields, I think, ran a little bit more last year, but I'm gonna go with Trevor Lawrence just for the sake of fantasy. They'll be playing behind a little bit more, and I think they'll end up having more attempts for Trevor Lawrence. So it's real tough. I'm gonna lean towards him.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough one, and this was one that really makes me really look at my rankings and where I have some of these quarterbacks, and I look at a guy like Justin Fields, who I have in my top 15, and I've got Trevor Lawrence, like I said before, a quarterback 19. So I have to go Fields based on what my rankings tell me. Right. But every time I'm in a draft and I have to choose Justin Fields, I don't feel great about it.
You could just wait and get Jameis, that's my guy.
But again, Jameis, yes, I like Jameis. I've got him, in my top 20 of quarterbacks. So he's definitely a guy that if it's looking like that, I will pick him near the end. But the reason why I pick Fields here is because of the rushing ability that he has. I mean, but like you said, both these guys can run. Not to take up Trevor Lawrence could actually probably run for the same amount of yards that Justin Fields can. So I mean, that's not a foregone conclusion. It's just Fields, I think, we were at times wondering why Matt Nagy wasn't running Fields. Right. Like there was times where he wasn't running enough. And I just think that I'm hoping that Matt Eberflus, who comes in as the new head coach, defensive minded, wants to install this outside zone run scheme led by offensive coordinator Luke Getsky, something like that. Sorry, Luke. Don't you know your last name, but I know your first name, so we'll call you Luke. So he's coming in to install this outside zone run scheme. How does he incorporate Justin Fields into that? The weapons are kind of a tough situation for Fields, but like you were saying you were saying that the Jags might be trailing more. I feel like that's probably going to be the Bears trailing because they're not really a talented roster.
Yeah.
They've pared everything down. They pretty much just said, here, Justin Fields, go. So that kind of like counterintuitively makes me feel like I should go Lawrence because he's got the team backing him and, putting these things around him. But I just feel like because of the rushing upside that Fields has, I am going with him.
Yeah,
I don't feel great about it.
I don't think I would be excited if I had either on my roster. But at that point, you got to do what you got to do. I'm gonna go with some. Yeah, give me Trevor.
Yeah, I mean the other thing too is, which is interesting, and this is totally, if you wait on quarterbacks, right? Like we always say wait on quarterbacks. I think this year, Greg, I mean, as evidenced by the draft we most had recently, we took quarterback. I know I took I was the second person to take quarterback. I took Lamar Jackson in the 4th round in a 14-team league. Did not hate it at all. So, yeah. So, you took Justin Herbert in the 5th round. So with, all of that being said, I think, a lot of people, the fantasy community has caught on to the rushing quarterback, and the fact that there's so many of them, it makes them a hotter commodity where people actually want them on their teams. So I don't find myself waiting for quarterback that much, but if I ever go Justin Fields, best and believe I get another quarterback. Like I'm pairing Justin Fields with like a Kirk Cousins, or I could very well pair these two right here, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, right? So, but I definitely want like a safe floor option, and Justin Fields is like, kind of, maybe if he has a good matchup or see how he's doing as the season progresses, and so on and so forth. Anything else you want to add to that, Greg, before we close this out?
No, yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by these two though, for sure. As far as storylines coming into the year, besides Tua, these two guys, talk about young quarterbacks. You want to see their storylines. I'm gonna be paying attention to them each week for sure.
All right. Well, that being said, everybody, again, we appreciate y'all for checking in. We appreciate you guys for being here with us, especially our first live show. It was exciting. The chat was active, so let's get some more folks in here and get it bumping for real. But we definitely appreciate y'all. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I am at JR Football Nerd. Greg is at G Money.
Are we talking about Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter.
At G Money _truth.
Yeah, at G Money _truth. On Instagram at we_made it. I'm at JR Football Nerd in both places. So again, make sure you follow us there. Make sure you are subscribed to the show. Make sure you tap in with us the next time we come here, which will be on Wednesday. We will be live. Don't have the definite time yet, but we will, as soon as we find out, we'll post that on the show page, the show Twitter page at FF Diagnostics, also on Instagram at FF Diagnostics. But again, appreciate y'all for listening, and we will catch y'all on Wednesday. Peace.
Yes, sir. Yeah.